Okay, yeah, well, the shirt is Shafat Outreach, and basically Shafat stands for defend, and it speaks in terms of fatherless, the orphans, those that are oppressed, and so on. And so our ministry is part of the ministry of our church, Charity Apostolic Church. And so one of the things that we do with this ministry here is reach out to the community and to address violence, prevention and intervention, whether it's youth or young adults and so on.
What form does that take?
Say that again.
What form does that take, that intervention?
Well, most of the time it's either gang intervention, and because most gang violence is gun violence, so a lot of times we tie right into the gun violence that we see, the epidemic that we're dealing with in our city, our state, and in our nation.
A lot of people are saying, oh, where did this come from? What could be done? But listen, right before the pandemic, we saw the lines at gun stores.
Right.
We saw it's been a horrible year for everybody. It's not to be expected, but basically, how do you turn down the temperature and get people to, put the guns down?
Right. Well, exactly. That's one of the programs that we have. I know you heard Mayor Tagliori talk about the No Shots Fired campaign, right? That's one of the programs that I actually presented to the city to introduce into the communities. And we know what research has said about what works and what doesn't work, especially when you talk about community violence, to prevent it from happening or intervene, disrupt the violence when it's happening, like the shooting that happened last night. With programs like ours, we can disrupt those type of things. But I think the key that we need to understand, and what I want to bring home today is that there are a lot of underlying situations and issues that give rise to the violence, right? Whether you're talking about trauma, whether you're talking about poverty crimes, whether you're talking about drugs and people needing drug treatment, homelessness, all these things tie into gun violence, especially the mental health issues. And so we got to address those issues. So one of the things with the No Shots Fired campaign is that's what we want to do. We want to reach out to that population that we know, especially when it comes to gang gun violence, is that are committing those acts. Reach out to these young men and help them turn their lives around. One of the things I was saying, I would call on the city council to do is the American Rescue Plan, right? There's money that has been placed in there that President Biden said that can be used for community gun violence, right? And so I'm calling on Mayor Tagliori and also the county board of supervisors to put money into the program to where that we can reach out to these guys through that funding to help them, right? There's guys that are homeless. There are guys that need services. There are guys that need treatment, right? There are folks that need training and skill development, things like that. And above all, they need to bring about a self-change, and we can help that. We can make that happen, but we need those resources to do it. And right now, those resources are not put in there to directly offer support services to these individuals when it comes to that, whether they need help like with clothing or food or help them pay their rent, so that we can help them make life changes. And so that's how you prevent violence and intervene in the violence. You go to those individuals that are involved in it and help them to change. Not when everybody listen, no, but you most definitely can have it. Research has shown, the data has shown that you can have an impact and decrease the violence if you reach to that population that's out there committing violence.
Right. So it seems as though you're behind a cure violence model of violence interruption and helping people who would in despair resort to things and anger resort to things like violence. It still seems as though the city of San Diego is in a ceasefire model, is in a enforcement model, and we know this disproportionately impacts communities of color.
Exactly.
So why is it important to you, especially when it comes to enforcement disparities, to promote this model of intervention?
Well, it's very important. I think one of the things that you mentioned was the ceasefire, and of course the ceasefire was tied into, it was heavily driven by law enforcement. So what we're trying to move to now is that when we address gun violence, is that it's driven by the community. One of the things that have shown to work is focus deterrence. When you focus on specific issues, so with No Shots Fired, what we focus on is gun violence. Like you mentioned, cure. That's some of the work we already do. We get to the crime scene, we get to the hospitals, those victims, we wrap around support to them. But not only that, but if they're gang involved and think about retaliation, we try to de-escalate that, right? And we also work with former gang members in the community. Like we got several former gang members that's right here that help us in the community to reach out to these individuals to disrupt the violence. So we're doing it from all those different angles, and what we want to do through the No Shots Fired is actually go to these individuals, offer support services to them to help them. And so that's the model that needs to change, because you're not going to police yourself out of it. These guys, I'm just telling you the truth. They're not going to give up their guns, so you got to change mindsets.
Is there any right now city or local support for these types of programs, or is there funding going in? And if so, I know you mentioned you want some of the American Rescue Plan money to be funneled that way. The city has money right now.
Right.
Is there proposals on the table?
Yes, there's a proposal that we're working on, and I'm glad you asked that because they are offering us, I believe, for $250,000 for each year for the No Shots Fire. But what the city has told us is that through the city attorney's office, we cannot use that funding to help individuals, right? So if an individual need help with food, we can't help them with food. If an individual need help with paying their rent, we can't help them pay their rent. If an individual need some type of mental health counseling, what have we can't pay for those services for them. So we want to be able to provide support services for individuals, and that's the part that's left out, and that's the issue that I'm pushing. That's more important than just putting money on the table. It's more important to help those individuals that have been traumatized, impacted by the violence, and engaged with the violence.
Awesome. Okay, so that's at 250 now, but